Radio Free Skaro!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 914. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Morning, Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
This week, just a bunch of banter. Taking it easy this week, folks. Hope you don't mind. We're actually recording two episodes today. One for Sunday. This is Saturday, by the way. If you're following along at home, Andrew Pixley, who's cataloging the history of RFS recordings. So we usually record Saturdays now.
What a futile endeavor.
Right? I'm recording this one, and then we're recording next week's going to be fun. It's going to be an all quiz episode because Warren and I are both off to various different places, and so we're bringing on Erica and Kat to play some Doctor Who trivia. So that's next week, with a potential for news breaking. I don't know if it's going to actually break. I don't know if anything's going to happen, but you never know. The BBC Twitter account, remember Twitter? I don't know if they posted on Threads yet. Has been
The Lincoln
suggested.
squirrel has been shot.
Yeah, as I think they suggested on Monday or something like that. Like, hey, do you want to meet the 14th Doctor? And had a clip of literally the only clip that we've seen of him asking what the hell is going on.
15th Doctor.
15th, thank
sir.
you. 15th, jeez. So I don't know.
Countess.
I don't know if they're alluding to something that they want to announce to coincide with San Diego Comic-Con, which they most likely will not be at, or not. But if anything happens, we'll don't worry, we'll cover it in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, Comic-Con.
We'll put it out only on Threads.
Only on Threads.
Then I'll never see it.
We haven't. So we're on. RFS is on Threads. I don't know if you heard about this, but Twitter on July 1st, when all rate limit exceeded and everybody hated it, and so coincidentally, Meta Group, Warren's favorite,
Thank you.
unveiled their new app, social media app called Threads.
By the way, just a thing on Meta.
Right.
The Nation put out a story about Horizon Worlds, which was their metaverse play. Apparently, it had 38, not 3,800, not 38,000, not even 380, 38 regular users, and made about $500. I mean, it was in beta, but still.
Yeah.
It's like Second Life.
No, Second Life actually had dedicated users. It was a weird pit of filth, but it had dedicated users.
Yeah. Wow. Anyway, so Threads is now a thing, but Threads, basically, if you have an Instagram account, you're just like, you're preloaded in. If you sign up for Threads, like, you could just sort of say, hey, just import all my followers. So everyone's going, wow, what an amazing, uptick in users. Not really. You didn't have to do any work, which honestly is kind of the early appeal to me. It's like, I don't have to find people because RFS is on Blue Sky. Follow us if you want. I'm on Blue Sky.
I'm not even on Blue Sky.
Oh,
I've never gotten an invite.
It's actually the best of the bunch because it's nothing but people poop posting, to put it politely.
I don't know.
That's all it is. It's just people being funny. So good,
is it
good.
though?
I'm down with that.
Yeah. So anyway, RFS is on Blue Sky. Follow us. We're not posting. We're on Mastodon. We haven't posted in quite a while, and now we're on Threads, and we're still. We might even advertise this episode when it drops on Threads. So stand by for that. That's gonna. You might have already seen our first ever thread from the RFS account on Threads.
Just to talk against our mission statement here, I took one look at the people on Threads, mostly influencers, and said, no, not today.
No, here's what's frustrating is that now that I've followed a few people and they're starting to say things more than other than, hey, what's Threads, is that like you first load up the app and it says, hey, these are people I know, and then you pull down to refresh. And then, there's nothing new? Well, guess what? Here are the influencers. And they just rush in like a vacuum.
What does Kid Rock think? I don't care.
I don't know.
I could not give one jot of a tittle what Kid Rock thinks.
Like
I did put in for my account, like, I don't know, fairly early on the day that it launched, whatever day that was. And I haven't looked at it much since, but when I did look, it was like, yeah, it was like 1 or 2 posts from people I actually know / follow.
Yeah.
And then about 15 posts of either, hey, you might like this, which, Facebook is chock full of, so why not? Why not Threads as well?
Yeah.
Or it's posts from people I don't follow, but somebody that I do follow has commented or replied to that post.
Yeah.
Also, what Facebook does
It's
a
annoying.
lot.
It's annoying. It's very
So
annoying.
it's just the signal to noise ratio so far is pretty dismal.
Yep.
I've come to the conclusion that with all these new social networks and just generally the state of social networks, other people's opinions were a mistake. I know how hypocritical that is in a Doctor Who podcast about our opinions on Doctor Who.
Please keep listening, though. Please keep listening.
Yeah, please do. Having said that, I'm just like having this much access to this many opinions is probably damaging. So I'm trying to not look at social media as much as I can.
I was watching a YouTube video about the launch of Threads, and it was said there that Instagram has something like 2.4 billion users.
Actual users, or like there's probably like
I was gonna say I don't know how many bots are active users or whatever, but
well, I know there's a lot of people with lady names and several numbers after them who follow me. So
those are going to be bots.
Oh yeah,
but anyway, like 2.4 billion accounts or something. So I mean the launch of a intertwined and related, because if you sign up for Threads and you want off Threads, you can't. Unless you delete your Instagram account altogether. Apparently, they're working on getting things separated, but right now it's just so reliant upon Instagram that there's no separation of the two.
Mm-hmm. Why did anyone expect anything different from Mark Zuckerberg?
But
Come on.
I don't know.
The fact there are that many user counts, I mean, because people are marveling, oh, it hits like 70 million users within a few hours or whatever the hubbub was. And it's like, well, you got this many existing accounts on Instagram, so the installed base ready to go for Threads is just so massive that like I don't think we've ever had anything to compare it against so far.
No. Twitter is pretty small in comparison, I think.
Yeah, well, because they didn't have as Chris just said, they didn't have a ready-made audience just to switch over.
Yeah.
We're still
now
waiting.
they do, of Nazis, so great.
Right. Still waiting for the official BBC Doctor Who account to post a thread. Nothing yet as of recording, as of 10 a.m. Saturday, July the 8th, Mountain Time. Isn't today the anniversary of Live Aid back in 1985? I want to say July 8th.
Sure.
We're not doing the time lapse anymore, but I thought I'd throw that in. Where Freddie Mercury was. I don't know if you've seen the clip, but Freddie Mercury and Queen were on there, and they did a thing. I don't know if anybody's ever done a thing about that, but they've that's what happened.
The only thing that matters to me is was it 2000 whatever with Live 8, where Spinal Tap played, and for Big Bottom they brought out about 30 basses.
That's true. All the basses for Big Bottom. Yeah. So anyway, Threads. Join us on Threads. It's all kicking off as we wait for both RFS's and the official BBC Doctor Who account's first ever post on Threads. We will break in if this event. No, we're not going to do anything. If news happens, we'll break in. Comic-Con's happening next in a couple weeks.
Kinda.
Yeah, supposedly. Allegedly, San Diego Comic. I feel really bad for people who organize San Diego Comic-Con because they're probably thinking, hey, COVID's kind of fading into the background a little bit. Maybe we can finally put on a proper convention. Oh, nope. Everyone's gone on strike, and then everyone is also doing their own thing. And so, yeah, it's very likely that Doctor Who won't be there, especially judging. So as a time of recording, so the way the Comic-Con does it is every day at about 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. Pacific, I guess, since they're on Pacific time. They drop the schedule for that day 2 weeks hence. And so they've, as of recording right now, they have released the Thursday and Friday schedules, and Wednesday too, actually. Wednesday is more of an introductory night. And so the Hall H schedules for Thursday and Friday as of time of recording are out there. And Warren is not very impressed by...
No. Well, I'm probably not the only one who isn't very impressed by it.
Yeah. There's 6 total things, 3 things each day. One of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, that gets a Hall H panel on the Thursday. Then there's something called Project K inside India's history-making sci-fi epic, and then a video game, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, apparently.
And these are all worthy things, but as far as SDCC hype machine stuff goes, this is pretty low down the totem pole. Like, it's Mutant Mayhem is like, even Spider-Verse wouldn't have gotten this amount of hype, and the reason this movie exists is because of Spider-Verse. But hey, I'm sort of digressing here. Like, Thursday is your big stuff, and then Saturday is your really, really big stuff. So there might be something on Saturday, but I have my doubts.
Yeah, well, we'll find out in about an hour from literally right this second. But and then on the Friday there's a panel on directors with Gareth Edwards. I've heard of him, and the guy who directed Deadpool 2 and Bullet Train, and Justin Simeon as well. But like, is that a big thing? Is that a big thing? The Hall H panel that
Hall H is huge. Like, it's thousands and thousands of people can sit in there.
Yeah.
And maybe they will. I don't know. And, actually, it's an opportunity for something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Good. This is opportunity we would have gotten otherwise. So same with this, the game and this sci-fi epic from India. Great. But also it just kind of shows that nobody's going to this thing this year.
Yeah. Except all the people who paid tickets to get there, to think that they would see some big panels from their favorite stars and such. So basically in as of recording, 25 hours from now, I will know for sure whether I can cancel my hotel reservation if Doctor Who's not going to be there or not. So, alas. Yeah, there is a Titan Comics, though. Titan Comics is on Doctor Who Titan Comics panel on Thursday, July 20th from 2 to 3 p.m. Is there. So if you are going to Comic-Con, there is some Doctor Who content there with Jodie Hauser and Andrew Summer, who are on there discussing the Doomsday comics as well as the Doctor in the House Part 1 and 2, all about Doctor Who comics. So they are there. They are there. That's going to be there. But as for Hall H, nothing so far. If we banter and waste time enough for the next hour, and I don't put that past us.
I do put it past us, actually.
We might know as we record if there's going to be anything on the Saturday, but by the time this episode comes out, all the days up until Sunday will have been released. So maybe by the time you hear this, we'll know if Doctor Who's going to be actually at Comic-Con, but it's looking very, very unlikely.
It looks pretty grim, I gotta say. Yeah.
Which is a shame, but you're going to be gone off that weekend anyway, aren't you? Somewhere like Winnipeg, right?
19th to the 24th, I will be at PemiCon in Winnipeg, so I know at least one listener will be there too. So I will say hi to him at the very least.
Yeah, what is PemiCon? What is that?
Okay, so this gets a little complicated and a bit weird, which is, so when a Worldcon is not held in North America, they do a NASFIC, and that's basically a Worldcon in North America to make up for the fact that it's not North America. So there's one in China at Chengdu this year, and a lot of people are like, I'm not going to China given their crappy treatment of the Uyghurs, and it's a lot of money to go there, and not the nicest government in the entire world, and so they're holding this thing in Winnipeg. I mean, they would be anyway, holding it somewhere in North America, because it's not. So, but I was like, what the hell? I'm going. So I'm going to this thing because it'll be kind of like a little mini Worldcon. Right.
Well, that's nice. Yeah, because and the China one happens like in October. I know this because we're up for it. Uncanny Magazine is a finalist for Best Semi-Prozine again. So the nominees came out. There are no Doctor Who nominees, by the way, for the Hugos, I should point out, because nobody likes Doctor Who anymore. When it comes to the Hugo nomination, they had their time. They had their time leading up to the 50th anniversary, and then it was like, all right, we're done with you. Everything's out. So there's a whole bunch of there are 2 episodes of Andor that are up for Best Dramatic Presentation short form.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest. By the way, I'd just like to point out that I'm not criticizing the people who organize the Chengdu Worldcon. I'm sure they're lovely. It's just it's the Chinese government is not so hot. So. Yeah. But that's the government you're dealing with when you're in that country. So
that's true. No Doctor Who. There's an episode of The Expanse, which I know you're a fan of, Warren.
That's great. Yeah.
For All Mankind. There's an episode of For All Mankind.
Also excellent.
It's
also
up
excellent.
For Best Dramatic. I don't know if you watched that one, Chris, but I know Warren has.
No.
No, okay. There's a She-Hulk episode in there too. I don't know what that's doing there, but and then Stranger Things episode of that. It's interesting actually because in the Best Dramatic Presentation long form, there's your movies, your Avatars, your Black Panthers, your Everything Everywheres, and then
which will probably win. And
then there's the entire season of Severance. Counts as apparently as a
That's
dramatic
weird.
presentation, right? I would think that pick an episode. But it's like a 10-hour movie. You see, that's what,
I watched the first episode, and I've heard people rave about how good it is, but I just couldn't get into it. So
a lot of people raved about it. Yeah, including a member of this household. Loved it. Loved that show.
Like I said, it could be great. I just never got past episode 1.
Yeah.
So I'm the villain here.
I thought it was
bad fan.
I thought it was too slow in that first episode, and so I never watched
which is ironic, given that you'll watch literally anything from 1970.
Yeah, we've had this talk about how slow stuff is in the 1970s compared to what it is now. Anyway, yeah. So there we go. I don't even know when the Hugos are coming out. October 21st. There we go. That's when like Saturday evening in Chengdu. So I don't know what time of day that is for us. Probably like
probably middle of the morning
Saturday.
The next day. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
previous
right?
day.
Yeah.
Previous
Day. Yeah, they're ahead of us, right? We're behind.
Probably somewhere in the middle of the night. Yeah.
It's
Middle
about
of
a
the
16-hour. If I remember from being in China, it's about a 16-hour difference.
Right.
Something along those lines.
I don't know what time of day that would be, but maybe I'll just wake up and check out the results as opposed to stay up.
Yeah.
14 hours ahead of Edmonton is Chengdu, says Google.
14 hours. So let's say the ceremony
early
is
morning, yeah.
8 p.m.
It'll be like 6 a.m.
6. That's an awful
The day
time.
off.
Yeah, I don't want to wake up that early. Just tell me how we do. Anyway, so there we go. Hugo Awards. That's another thing that happened. Hey, I don't know if you've been following along the Radio Times Waris Hussein Diaries, but the third and final installment came out this past week. Actually, came out last weekend, but after we had recorded our previous episode. Fascinating stuff as always. Waris Hussein's thoughts at the time of making his 2 Doctor Who stories that he made. This one's a lot about Marco Polo, or as they keep calling it, Cathay. Because the Journey to Cathay, I think, they didn't really have an overall episode title. What there are some things that are here that are quite fascinating to me. One of them is there's a cover version of the Doctor Who theme by Eric Winston and his orchestra that I remember hearing many years ago, and it's kind of silly. It's like like a band and they're using a theremin and everything else. But what I didn't know is that according to Waris Hussein, who heard it on Radio Luxembourg on January 27th, 1964. So a Doctor Who comes out, and there's already an orchestra making a cover version of the theme song barely 2 months after its premiere on TV. I found that astonishing, which is kind of cool. So he talks about that. And also about how Peter Wyngarde could have been in Marco Polo. And we missed out on that. We had to wait.
Well, did we miss out really, though?
We had to wait 20 years for Peter Wyngarde to show up in Planet of Fire. What a shame.
So,
yeah.
If you'll allow me a very brief, under 30-second dramatic reading. Wednesday, 29th, January 1964.
Okay.
Desperate last-minute rewrites on episode 1. God knows how I'm going to manage 7 days of this. It will be pure hell. There you go. That's my dramatic reading.
Yeah.
I just love that. Sums it all up.
7 weeks of this. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It seems that there was, he talks about, I think, what was it, March 7th, Saturday, March 7th, where they had a fraught session with last-minute script changes, cast illnesses, slow narrative structures. The 4 regulars have complained. Bill Hartnell got so incensed the other day that I'm sure it brought about his relapse with flu, which incapacitated him all through last week. And we had to rehearse without him until Thursday afternoon. Remember, they record on Saturdays. No, they record on Fridays. To top off, they had an entire scene rewrite between Tagana and Marco. Darren Nesbitt slowed up his performance progressively, and yesterday during the actual recording, he went off his lines completely, but the scene held because of the improvisations put on by Mark Eden, who coped with it in spite of the reinsert of dialogue. That is fascinating to me. That is fascinating.
I just like that Bill Hartnell had a fit of the vapors.
He did have a bit of the vapor, and it was very. He talks about a strained 5 minutes in the control room with having to do many retakes, including the end of last week's episode. So they had to retake the ending of the previous week's episode because Sidney Newman thought that the knife against Susan's throat was a little too graphic and stuff. So these are things we don't know about because we've never seen because the damn thing doesn't exist allegedly. So a little insights like this. I wish all directors. I wish Richard. We have all of Richard Martin's direct. I wish I don't know, Douglas Camfield. Did Douglas Camfield have any diaries and stuff like that? Because I'd love to read those for the Times. Stuff them.
He's like, write nothing down. They can have no proof.
Yeah, maybe he did. Like, I'm going to write the entire making of the Daleks Master Plan, but then just wipe it from existence, just like the episode.
Much like the Daleks Master Plan.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my favorite remarks is at the end of his diaries. I was supervising the editors. They used to slice the videotape with a razor and splice it together down in the bowels of TV Center. It took so long because some of the editors hadn't a clue how to edit. Why are you an editor then?
Oh, because they're used to editing film. Oh, it's fascinating. And the early days, very early days of videotape. How do we do this? I don't know. Cut it together like we do with film.
It's like watching a documentary on the Radiophonic Workshop and how they would do the same thing. They'd literally take the tape, splice it, so I would cut it with a razor blade and tape it and splice it and all kind of. It's like, man, like we do anything we do with digital editing, or if you ever listen to a podcast and people complain about the editing process after the fact, it's like, you had nothing to complain about.
Nope,
even in the 90s, like at CGSR, the local college radio station, I knew somebody who would splice together stuff on like in that very way with the razor blades and all the rest of it. She said it's organic, which is what people love to say when it's a pain in the butt.
Oh yeah. Oh no, just to show my age a bit, when I went to college, Mount Royal College in the mid to late 90s, during the first year radio, here's some of the supplies you need. Get yourself some razor blades and some tape, because you're going to need to be doing some audio editing. And sure enough, we actually did proper audio editing on actual physical audio tape cutting.
Now, I will say, and this is my old fogey time, right, that because I just cut on 3/4 inch or like Betacam videotape at Nate in the 90s, it does make you a better editor because you actually think about what you're doing as opposed to just what I do now, which is throw everything at a wall and figure it out from there. You had to plan things out, and that makes you better at what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
How careful do you have to be relative to non-destructive digital editing where I messed up, undo.
Mm-hmm.
There is no undo when you're cutting the physical tape.
No,
There's
I know.
There's an argument to be made by old people like me who are like, it was better when you had all this discipline and the only a limited amount of VFX and all the rest of it, as opposed to now where you're just like, shoot it all and we'll figure it out later in post and recreate this guy digitally or whatever. Like that just lends itself to stuff all looking kind of samey and sloppy, to a point.
Yeah.
And then you look at obviously he changed eventually, but like people like Steven Spielberg cutting on a moviola until the 2000s?
The first thing he cut digitally was, I think, Tintin, because he had no choice.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was late 2000s. Yeah, so damn.
Yeah.
He was one of the last holdouts, though. And actually, a good comparison is if you look at Goodfellas, it's pretty tight for what it is. If you look at Casino, which is the first time Scorsese used an Avid, it is still a good movie, but it's not anywhere near as tight. And there's an argument to be made that because of the discipline of cutting on film, not that I'd ever want to do it, to be honest with you. There's no way I'd give up the convenience of digital. Not a chance.
I have a question, Warren. I know this is about Force Awakens, so bear with me. But I know that J.J. Abrams shot that on film. It was 35 mil.
Yep.
Did he edit it on film, or did they convert it all to digital? And then edit?
That would have been digitized.
It would have been Avid. That's been going on since the 90s.
Okay.
Spielberg's one of the very few people to cut on film. And even he's not doing it anymore. So.
Yeah, that's why nobody remembers any of his movies anymore.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if Christopher Nolan at least claims to do that. He's also the guy who goes, there's no VFX, digital VFX in Oppenheimer. Sure there isn't.
None.
Okay,
none at all. It's all real in-camera effects. None at all.
Saw yesterday or the day before that they shot Oppenheimer in 2 different aspect ratios as well.
Oh, yeah. And I want to still go see Oppenheimer. It looks interesting. But
depending on where you see it and how you see it, that's going to influence things for what you see.
I'm going to see
a lot of filmmakers.
I'm going to actually see, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to watch the IMAX version of Oppenheimer, which is taller. And then I'm going to watch Barbie at the same time, which is not. And so Barbie's going to fill the middle of the screen. And then the top and the bottom will be Oppenheimer. And I'll just watch both movies at the same time.
Boppenheimer.
Boppenheimer. Yeah, exactly. So that's how I'm going to do it.
I mean, no studio is going to give you over $100 million to do it in your artsy little way. That's not going to, you shoot it on IMAX, sure, fine. Like he has a certain amount of pull, but cutting it on film, unless you're Spielberg, there's no way in hell that happens. And the reason Spielberg does that or was able to do this, because he always stayed on budget. He very rarely went over budget, thanks to Jaws, where he did go over budget and it haunted him for the rest of his days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's videotape editing back in the day, it was fascinating. When there were never. I'm just going to bring this back to Doctor Who. Is that videotape editing once it actually became a thing? I actually don't know when it became standard to not physically cut the tape. Like I don't know what the first episode that they said, you know what, we should not do that. Maybe we should actually just sort of edit from one tape to another instead of physically. I don't know when the first one of that was. It must have been in the 60s because. It was becoming a much more common thing to record stuff out of order occasionally in the late 60s. But like, when you think, I was a videotape editor for the BBC, but when you think about it, like making shows back in the day, it was mostly just the department in the basement of BBC Television Centre. And they were basically just there to press play and record everything that was coming out of it. And they would just sort of like, all the scenes themselves are already edited because it's multicam and they're switching on the fly. So that's done. So the only thing that a tape editor has to do is basically, here's scene 1, and then we find scene 2, and we put that right next to scene, and there's your editing. There was no real creative impetus when it came to actually putting the edit together in the
it's still
early
a legit
days.
skill.
It still is. It's a skill, but like it wasn't the creative decision as it was later on. You know what I mean?
Well, and also cranking out TV like that, it's never all that creative. It's at the time anyway. Like there's no. It's just, we got to get this on the air. Hurry up. Come on, hurry up. Exactly.
Yeah, it was more of a technical thing back in the early days of video.
Especially when you get to the editing part where it's really down to the wire. So those guys are like, it's not their fault. That's just the way the process works.
Yeah. And then you factor in like how much stuff was made, was in camera. Like, we talk a lot about, there's 2 times in history where Doctor Who, both times in the Troughton era, where they were literally recording a new episode 6 days before it went out. And that sounds terrifying, and justifiably so, but there was also very little in the way of post-production. Very little. Mm-hmm. Everything was basically happening live, and so you just had to sort of edit it together and, put it in. But like, it wasn't a lot of post-production work, so you could kind of get away with that back in the 60s.
I mean, I'd still be pooping bricks if I was running the show at that time, with 6 days to go.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, well, they had to work around the Moonbase audio being botched for, I think, episode 4 of the Moonbase because, well, we can't record it because it's going to air next week, so we can't redo it, so they had to edit around it. So the days of the 1960s, which is even before our time, but we still lionize it in some way as something we had to endure to get to better times ahead, right? 1960s. Anyway, hey, Peter Davison, remember him? He was Doctor Who, and he made the wonderful 5-ish Doctors back in 2013, and he revealed plans to the Radio Times of a skit, a follow-up skit that he had an idea for, but the BBC said no, so they pulled the plug on it before it ever happened. He never alluded to what actually happened, but he said it was a great idea. He came up with an idea. It was deemed by those I showed it to as utterly unacceptable, although I thought it was very funny. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I'm a little worried since he's a man of a certain age that might be something bad. That might be something, let me put it this way. It might be something less Eric Idle and more John Cleese.
Maybe. He does elaborate. He says, it's a different world now, says Davison. And I am always, I wouldn't say pushing the boundaries. My sense of humor is maybe a little out of sync with the sense of humor that now exists.
And I could be assuming things that aren't true, too. So, like, to be perfectly fair to the guy.
That's true. We don't know. Maybe we'll never know. But yeah, there was an attempt at some point to do a follow up for the 60th anniversary.
He also calls the original one a perfect storm. Why try to redo it? And he's kind of got a point. Like, It was a perfect time to do it. We don't have the hype machine that we did for the 50th.
Nope.
Because it's not the 50th. So yeah, why? And this is going to be and he also says, I don't want to compromise. So, all right, well then let's not do it. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Stands alone. Yeah, I remember Chris. I remember when we went to go see Day of the Doctor in the theater, November 23rd, 2013, and I think you went off with some friends or something like that for drinks, and I think I was just physically
for lunch after,
it was lunch, of course, and I remember I was just physically and mentally and emotionally spent after the week and the weeks leading up to it, that I just went home and watched the Five Doctors reboot, and I thought, this is the most perfect ending to a 50th anniversary celebration.
It's still funnier than hell. Like, it is really good.
It's so good. Then I watched.
I'm in
after
schedule
show.
Permitting.
Yeah, and then I watched the after show after that. I thought, this is
which is also a perfect coda, like a complete screw up. I mean,
yeah,
nothing could. It's Doctor Who. How could anything could go off succinctly? Like, come on.
Is that going to be on? I hope that when the collection comes out, the collection Blu-rays come out, that for the modern series, that finds its way onto the.
That's got to be on YouTube somewhere.
Is it on YouTube? I don't know. I've had a copy for so long. So have you, Chris. That I probably got the copy off of you, Chris. That I think it's got to be out there for all to endure. Honestly, I don't even know how long it was. Was it an hour? Was it 2 hours? Did it seem like 3 hours?
Felt like a day.
Yeah.
Five-ish Doctors?
Yeah. No. The after party.
For half an hour.
No way.
Just felt like 3 hours.
Come on, the after party was not half an hour. You're lying.
I thought it was.
No.
Maybe it was maybe it was an hour.
There is a cavalcade of calamities in that entire thing. Like the one direction fiasco was like 5 minutes.
Oh, the simulcast.
Itself.
Like, you pulled off a simulcast across the world of this show. There is no way in hell you're going to pull that off again with a live concert. And of course they didn't.
It wasn't even a live concert. They were just in studio recording, and that was just awful.
Just looking at YouTube, the only thing I can see on here is a 17-minute.
Oh no, that's
copy.
Oh,
I'd have to look at my archive to check the actual broadcast one.
That's right.
You know what? Still better than Dimensions in Time.
I think you're right. I think you might be right. Actually, there's more to laugh at.
Wow, that's How do you?
I hate Dimensions in Time.
How do you compare those, though? I mean,
well, they both suck, and so this one sucks less for different reasons.
That's true, but one's funnier and more entertaining. And
the after party.
The after party is way more,
and it's not funny or entertaining. So take for what you will from that.
Yeah, I think maybe as a new Patreon goal, we'll do a commentary of the after party.
Dear God. New Patreon goal: make us suffer.
Make us. Yeah, I don't know about that. Anyway. Okay, you gotta find out.
Yeah, so according to TARDIS.fandom.com, the after party was 1 hour, 59 minutes, 15 seconds.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't think they could curtail that to half an hour. Yeah.
The last 15 seconds is just everybody watching, going, "Oh God, oh God,
what did we do?"
15 seconds left.
Just Stephen Moffat repeatedly putting his head in his hands.
IMDb also says 59 minutes.
There we go, folks. Confirmed here. 59 minutes. That's how long the Doctor.
You don't have to subject yourselves to. Don't do it.
Is there going to be a similar party for the 60th anniversry? I wonder. I hope that's the case.
I bet no. Yeah.
Okay.
Still one of my overarching memories of that fiasco.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond the One Direction thing,
right.
was it Zoe Ball or somebody that was involved with it,
right?
Going around and talking to all the companion actors and saying, go up to Sarah Sutton and say hi, Sarah, or go up to Peter Purvis and hi, Peter, whatever. Yeah. Going up to Janet Fielding, hi, Tegan.
Yeah. I think the guy, the male host, I think was also calling characters by the name. I bet you there's probably the director shouting in his ear, "Go say hi to Tegan." Okay.
I was gonna say, like, would they know these names from the show that they probably never watched back in the day?
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, there needs to be a documentary about that, the whole making of, because that Ed Stradling, get on that, because I want to see how that all came to be. A much better use of your time is to watch the most recent video on the Dalek 6388. It's usually they do Terra Nation stuff, of course. Gav Rimo was talking about this when he was on a few weeks ago. But there's a whole thing about how Doctor Who and Jack the Ripper are tied together in the making of Talons of Wing Chiang. I remember Gav was a little bit like nervous and wary about doing something distinctly non-Dalek. I think it's great. What a great documentary on not only the history of Jack the Ripper, but also just like what was going on at the time with Jack the Ripper, like literally on TV, that might have inspired Robert Holmes to write the story he did. And like, there were things I learned about this. Like, I didn't realize that the legend of Jack the Ripper kind of died out for like 50, 60 years afterwards, and it was only like, films of the 1950s and 60s that sort of like brought him back to life, so to speak, and in a guise completely unlike the potential suspects of who actually did the murders back in the 1880s. Which is quite fascinating. So it's
I draw parallels to Star Wars. It comes out, big deal, then it dies in the 90s, and then it comes back in the early 2000s, or I guess the late 1990s.
Of course, Star Wars didn't end up with 5 unsolved murders over the centuries.
Well, Darth Vader killed a lot of people.
It's true. It's true. R.I.P. victims of Jack the Ripper. Anyway, links in the show notes, readyforscott.com. Have a look, though, on the Dalek6388 YouTube channel. I watched it 3 times. I've watched that thing 3 times now, including when it came out. Even though I watched it already before I talked to Gav a couple weeks ago, I still watched it again because it's good stuff. So
it was a good interview, so I'm intrigued by this.
Yeah, it's very good. Watch it, Warren. It's good. Sometimes I know you and YouTube don't get along sometimes, but there's some legitimately good stuff out there.
I agree. There is some legitimately good stuff. Red Letter Media, for one. It's just all the other YouTube stuff and the endless thumbnails of some idiot with his mouth open that just is visually, what's the word? A criminal. Like, that just really gets to me for some reason.
It's like a visual representation of
stupidity
of threads, basically, when you pull down to refresh the feed.
Exactly. Some guy with his mouth agape looking at whatever the subject of the video is. I'm just like, oh, this is so stupid. I weep for humanity, and then I just don't care anymore.
Algorithms, baby. Good old algorithms.
Yeah, that's what the world needs.
Yeah. Anyway. Hey, is it next week? It's going to be next week. Doctor Who, the Target Book Club, something that James Goss is putting on to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Target Books. It's happening at Bush Hall in London, London town at 10 a.m. Tickets are still available. There's a proper, like, a full-on schedule of like panels and speakers and everything else to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who Target Books. So, Chris, I imagine if you were still living in London, this feels like exactly the thing that you'd be going to.
I'd be all over this, yeah.
So would I, to be honest with you. It sounds great.
Yeah, like people like Ned Fountain were there, Dr. Matthew Kilburn, I think Matthew Switzer, James Kilroy Smith, Rob Shearman's going to be Nigel Robinson, who of course was the editor of the Range in the 1980s. So a whole Jeff Cummins, who was the artist who did some of the covers and stuff like that. So yeah, a proper celebration of Target Books, and it's an 18+ event too. So look out.
It's going to get saucy.
Swearing.
There's only one proper way to celebrate this, and that is by saying clack.
Clack. R.I.P. Chris Achilleos. So yeah, this is happening. So links in the show notes if you want to get tickets for this. I'm assuming it's not quite sold out yet because I saw James Goss tweeting about it a couple of days ago. So yeah, sounds like a grand old time with some Doctor Who stuff. So,
well, the event site does not say it's sold out, so I'm assuming it's not.
Yeah, never know. Maybe they oversell things. I don't know how these things work, but. Anyway, hey, Long Island Who is coming up August 18th to 20th, and this is cool. Sacha Dhawan, kids, is coming.
That's pretty cool.
To LI Who. Sacha Dhawan, of course, is a Gallifrey one in last year? Like last year, as in 2022.
Were you involved in any way, Stephen? I don't remember.
I don't know if I told you this, Warren, but I moderated
a
commentary for an adventure in space and time with producer Matt Strevens and Sacha Dhawan. And I sat next to him, and he has a very nice smile. And I called him. I said that he looked like he was 12 years old during one scene when he was in when they were shooting the thing with Sidney Newman in the Chinese restaurant, because he looked tiny. And Sacha Dhawan said, "You know what? I am sitting on a box here because I am so tiny."
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what's modesty? Honest, I guess, is the way to put it.
Yeah.
It's being honest about himself. Yeah. Genuine.
Yeah. He's great. Sacha Dhawan is lovely. So, LI Who, come out there August 18th to 20th in the heat of the summer on Long Island instead of the cold, windy winter that is usually in November. It's in August this year. So,
Leave the Hampton Snobs, which I believe are near there anyway.
They are actually, Good. I wish that Elihu wasn't literally on the other end of the continent for us, because it's an epic trek for us here in Edmonton to get there. But it would be a good time, especially since I'm probably not going to San Diego Comic-Con now. Kind of need an outlet for my Doctor Whoism, but I don't think it's going to be at Elihu, sadly. But it can be for you folks if you're going to be in the area, August 18th to 20th, put on by our good friend Ken Deep. So check it out. Sacha Dhawan and Paul McGann there, of course, too, in his outfit from the Night of the Doctor / Power of the Doctor. So
now Sacha Dhawan should be in his Master Doctor outfit.
Oh, is there time enough to make him an outfit?
I very much doubt it.
For that. With the thing, you can just cobble something together from the gift shop. It's pretty much what they did in the actual TV show.
Sure, but I mean that's kind of doing a disservice to cosplayers who put a whole lot of work into this stuff.
I know that, but get the question mark pullover. I mean, it's half the battle right there. I think, honestly,
this is why you're not a cosplayer or costume maker.
No.
This rampant ignorance, and I'm also ignorant, but I know enough customers to know that what you're saying is crazy talk.
I know. Well, you know what? I bet you the question mark pullover that you see in the Power of the Dog, I bet you 100%. And probably even what Osgood was wearing in the Zygon episodes. I bet you that that's probably just the BBC Enterprises version that you could buy at the shop,
but, but there's more to costuming than just that, which I'm not qualified to talk about, but I'm sure it gets a lot more complicated than the reason we think it isn't is because it looks so good.
Right. That's true. Anyway, a couple big Finnish things here to talk about. The Third Doctor, new Third Doctor story coming out with Third Doctor Elizabeth Shaw and the Brigadier, all voiced by new actors, of course, because the original actors have sadly passed away. It's called Doctor Who, the Third Doctor Adventures, Intelligence for War.
Good cover, too. Very 70s cover.
Very 70s. Good stuff by the cover artist on that one. That one's coming out in, I don't know, November? Is it November? I want to say November.
October 2023.
Thank you very much. Looking through the press release for that, but
I'm sure we've talked about it before, but one thing I really like that Big Finish is doing is, so they've got Daisy Ashford, who's Carolyn John's daughter, playing Liz Shaw, just like they've got Sadie Miller, who's Liz Sladen's daughter, playing Sarah Jane.
Yep. Keeps it in the family.
It's just a nice touch.
It is nice, isn't it? Yeah. I met Sadie Miller. I was on a panel with Sadie Miller. Last Cali? They're starting to blur together. She's very nice too. So I remember
in 2022 as well.
It would have been 2022. I remember seeing Sadie Miller.
I don't think she was there in 2023.
No, I remember seeing Sadie Miller as a very young child and 30 years in the TARDIS with her mum.
Oh yeah.
Now she's playing same character. Sounds quite something. Anyway, also coming from a Big Finish is Missy is back. Michelle Gomez is amazing. The Worlds of Doctor Who. Missy, Bad Influence she returns in a brand new box set of 3 full cast audio dramas coming out in April of 2024. So you can pre-order that as well from the Big Finish website. And lastly in the news, Apple Arcade, the Doctor Who Hidden Mysteries game. There's an update. There's been an update now. There's a difficulty level, and there's also a couple of new different story strands that you can sort of like special event story strands that you can sort of play along with too. I've kind of stalled a little bit. I play it occasionally, just sort of like tapping stuff and finding the things and everything else. It's kind of a neat little pastime. Chris, you steamrolled through the game in a week.
A little more than a week, I think, but yeah, I kind of just powered through it, just sitting in front of the TV and tapping away.
Mm-hmm. Is this gonna bring you back now? Because you finished like the entire storyline, right, and like hit the last level.
Ages ago.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think you had said last week or the week before that there was new content on the horizon, and then I saw the latest update the other day made mention of the new content, and I'm like, okay, maybe we'll see.
Yeah, I did
nothing against the game, but I mean, I've kind of had my fill of it.
Right?
Yeah, you got stuff to do.
Yeah. Like playing Grand GTA Online, which is what Lauren and I
still haven't
do.
gotten back to Edge of Reality. Like I just kind of not noped by choice. I just kind of just didn't get back to it. And yeah, now Grand Theft Auto consumes my. In fact, my guy is making money sitting on a couch right now.
Well done. Which one? Which one's into Reality Warren? I've forgotten.
That's the one that used to be a VR game. I might be screwing the name up, and then it became an Xbox and PlayStation game. And
that one,
about a year ago. Yeah, and you finished it, I believe.
I did. Oddly enough, it got ported to Xbox 2-3 years ago now, and I played it, even though it's a first-person game because it's directly ported over from VR. And even though I don't do well with first-person games, but I still I was sort of slowly walking through. I didn't go too fast as to give myself like motion sickness or anything like that. And I made it through the game. It was a good game. And then I got an Oculus Quest now called MetaQuest. I got one of those suckers, which I like, and then the game's on there too. Well, I'll get it, and I couldn't play it. I literally couldn't go two steps because of the motion on it. So I am stuck in a laundromat, and I cannot go any further.
That was me when I tried to play it the first place. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah,
I was just getting really frustrated.
It's a shame. I wish it had that. A lot of VR games have like what they call teleport feature, where instead of moving to the location, you just sort of like say point, I want to go there, and then you're teleported there.
Okay,
essentially.
That's good. That's a good solution.
Yeah, so you don't have the but Doctor Who, the VR game doesn't have that, so that's why I can't play it because it's just.
I'm half tempted to pick up PlayStation VR, but I know I'll use it twice and it'll just sit around. So it'll be like the Guitar Hero of today.
Yeah, I suppose. You know what? I'm finally getting into, as in I did it 3 times this week. The supernatural exercise things where you punch things that come at you or you hit things with sabers and stuff like that, and you think, oh, I'm just hitting stuff and like to music and everything. But like 20 minutes later, and I'm pouring and sweating, thinking, this is fun. I'm actually working out. This is much better than that elliptical trainer that we had for 8 years and used 3 times. And it's it's a fun thing. So. And hey, a Doctor Who's going to be in the metaverse at some point, as I think they alluded to some business report. We talked about this a few weeks ago. I don't remember the details of it, but
if the metaverse even exists,
that's true. Hopefully, it's not in Horizon's world. Hopefully, Doctor Who isn't coming to Horizon's world. Maybe they can bump the users up to over 38. But I'm
just to bring it back to GTA, when the metaverse hype was off the hook about a year ago, my dad, who happened to be here, asked, "What is this stuff?" I'm like, so I showed him GTA and said, "Dad, imagine this on your face." He's like, "No." Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's about right. You actually nailed it, Dad.
Yeah. I do look forward to technology improving a little bit. To have a bit of a lighter I think there's a new meta one coming out in September, which is lighter, which is kind of nice because after 20 to 30 minutes of working out, it starts to slide down your face a little bit. It's like there's this big giant cathode ray TV basically strapped to my face, it feels like. And so VR is what a lot of companies want to be the future. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, or maybe it will. Who knows? I'm just if I was 20, I'd probably be super hyped about all this stuff, but I'm not. And so I'm just like, I've seen this before, and it didn't work then, and it probably won't work now, and I could very well be wrong. But I know there's some fun games on there, some fun immersive stuff. I know there's like some like horror games, like that. I'm not a horror fan, so I don't want to play those games because they scare me. And working out, it's the exercise factor which really works for me. But honestly, hanging out in VR and no, that's not going to work.
No, absolutely not. And doing work in VR, like hearing the teams ring is bad enough as is. Yeah. like I don't need. Also, okay, here's another thing. I spent $600 on my PS5, a PlayStation VR 2 with Horizon Call of the Mountain bundled, which is the only reason I get it in the first place. Is $819. That's more than I paid for my PS5. So probably not.
Yeah, Chris, you gonna leap into the VR world at all?
Nope.
Okay. There we go.
Chris is the most sensible of the three of us. Nope, to hell with it.
Stay tuned for the RFS's coverage of the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who, coming exclusively to VR. Join us in there in November of 2023. We'll be no, we won't. We won't at all.
Here's a preview. Hey, who turned out the lights?
Exactly. We'll just be we'll just be on YouTube for our live stream as per usual. Except we'll all be wearing goggles, and you won't be able to see what we see. That will be
just swimming goggles that we picked up at like the dollar store.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, kids. We've wasted enough of your time today. I hope you enjoyed that episode, entirely filled of banter. Next week, as I said, it's going to be all trivia all the time and pre-recorded stuff. So no real news unless something major happens, and at which point it'll be on the top of that podcast probably. And then maybe something will happen in coinciding with San Diego Comic-Con, if not actually announced at Comic-Con, that we can talk about in 2 weeks hence. And then, honestly, it's the summer of books. There's quite a few Doctor Who books that are coming out toward leading up to the 60th anniversary. So we're going to cover about 2 or 3 of them that are coming out in the summer and fall, all throughout August and stuff. And we've got commentaries and mini scopes and other things that we're looking to do. So yeah, a little bit of a light week this week, but later on in the summer we'll be pushing forward with a lot more fun stuff. And then of course new episodes coming up in November of Doctor Who to talk about, and an entirely new / old era of Doctor Who. It's very exciting. So hope you'll join us for that. Until next time, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
So long for now.
You've been listening to Radio Free Skaro. Find us online at radiofreeskaro.com. Follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at Radio Free Skaro. Subscribe to us on iTunes and donate to the show at patreon.com/Radio Free Skaro. Thank you.